Guys, I finally finished a Legend of Heroes game. When Trails in the Sky was released on PSP way back in 2011, I got it right away. A big JRPG franchise was finally available in the English-speaking world, so I scooped it right up. Scooped up. And I proceeded to play it for a whopping 2 hours before shelving it. I didn't shelve it because it was bad, it was just one RPG out of a pool of hundreds that I needed to play. I eventually tried to get around to it again once it came to Steam, and again a couple of years later after that, but it just never stuck. But I promptly picked up every other Legend of Heroes / Trails game as soon as they came out. Other than a couple of hours of Cold Steel 1, I did not even start up any of these other games. For years and years, it was just Trails in the Sky 1 and Trails of Cold Steel, and less than 10 hours divided between the two. But I still picked up every other single game as soon as I could because I knew one day I would finally get deep into this legendary series. And we are finally here. Ladies and gentlemen, let us finally talk about the Trails games. Or at least just the first one for now. The Trails games are a series of games within a larger series of games, that series being The Legend of Heroes. See, Nihon Falcom is a three-ring circus masquerading as a game dev. The only series with a more insane timeline is the Wonder Boy series of games, but I already tackled that one, didn't I? I am only tangentially aware of the first two parts of Legend of Heroes. The first two entries of the Dragon Slayer series started as Legend of Heroes games, but Dragon Slayer 2 also started the Xanadu series. Then came the Gagarv trilogy, which I also never played. But I watched some Basement Brothers videos of a couple of these titles, and I can 100% say that they are not for me. After 13 years and 5 Legend of Heroes games, 2004 would bring us Trails in the Sky. The year of 2004 CE brought us the first of the Trails series. The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky was developed by Nihon Falcom for Japanese Windows in June 2004, and 2 years later, in 2006, it would end up on the PSP. The game wouldn't make it to North American PSPs until 2011, and then even later on North American PCs in 2014, a full 10 years after the original PC release. For a long time to come, the Trails series would have localization and translation woes that we are still feeling today, what with sequels all taking a very long time to get localized by Xseed or NISA. Thankfully, we are almost just about caught up, so things might be a bit smoother here on out. Maybe? So, after many years of Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the mountain, the Trails games are mostly finally here. The story, settings, and characters of Trails in the Sky are meticulously developed and designed. If there is one thing the Trails games are known for, it is dialogue and storytelling. And this game has so much to read that it puts many other series to shame. And what you do have to read is really captivating stuff. The story starts off simple enough with the main characters Estelle Bright and her adopted brother Joshua heading off to the world to become senior bracers. Bracers are kinda like cops, but without all of the bastardry. Each bracer has their own territory where they work and where they can accept jobs from the local bracer guild. These are quests that the citizenry put in for all kinds of things that normal everyday people may need help with. Estelle and Joshua spend the entire game traveling around the various guilds, taking on different jobs and slowly increasing their reputation. Being junior bracers isn't particularly exciting, but as they take on jobs across the continent, they grow through story segments and they grow stat-wise as well. That's right, Trails in the Sky actually weaves narrative into the actual game design, something that is actually kinda rare. As they travel the continent, they slowly piece together an overarching plot to depose the monarchy. Machinations within and outside of the government are working together to dethrone Queen Alicia and replace her with the corrupt Duke Dunan. So yes, you're basically cops working for the monarchy. As an anarchist, I don't know how I made it this far. While on their quest, Estelle and Joshua have one of the most realistic, young romances I have ever seen in video games. They are children in a dangerous world slowly becoming heroes by traveling the land, and through this closeness, a young and beautiful romance takes light. And Estelle especially is incredibly charming to watch. She is unsure, nervous, and shy about her feelings towards Joshua. She feels like a real human being. And for me, that's really what sucked me in. The characters feel huge, but in a realistic way. In a lot of JRPGs, you have huge characters in huge worlds, on huge quests, fighting huge villains. And that can be fun, but killing God for the 200th time does get a little bit old. Your characters, literal children, are region-locked to one continent, Zemuria, with a larger world completely out of your reach for this entire game. You are two sparks in a small world. You're not here to kill God, you're here to grow up. While Estelle and Joshua both have incredible arcs, not every character does, but they're still all very well done. Fan favorite, the goofy and handsome Olivier doesn't really have any sort of arc, but his role as good-looking doofus who is more than meets the eye and also has something mysterious about him is astoundingly realized. He is fun, silly, and cool, and that's all he really needs. I also like the world building in this game a lot. We only get to see Zemuria in this game, but there are multiple times during the game's main story and during optional content that parts of the outside world are mentioned or alluded to. And this makes me hungry to get even further into this series. The fact that the world, the story, and the characters are all so intertwined and fascinating makes me really want to get further into this series. It is a testimony to how incredible the writing is. The gameplay in Trails is not quite as iconic as the writing, but it's still good. It has a lot of things that you'd expect, like combat, leveling up, quests, cooking, etc. Nothing particularly life-changing, but it's all done pretty well. Everything works and none of it is overthought. It all just works. Let's start with combat because everybody loves smacking around goblins or whatever. Combat is turn-based and takes place on a giant battlefield disconnected from the map. Enemies walk around the map, which I love so much, please no more random battles, and when you engage with one, the map swaps to the battlefield. Party members and enemies take turns based on their agility stat. Hell yes. When one of your guys gets a turn, you have a number of things that you can do. You've got your classics like attack, item, and run, but you also have a few more interesting choices. The first of these is move. Battlefields are large arenas with enemies on one side and your party on the other. When you attack, your little fellow will waddle across the screen and smack the baddie, if their movement is high enough. Selecting move on its own will allow you to choose somewhere on the battlefield to move to. Your character's movement area is based on the move stat. All basic stuff, but as Mr. SRPG, I absolutely love this. Oh my god, it's almost like an SRPG system. If you aren't close enough to someone to use an item on them, you will simply move closer to them and then stop. Balancing this with the reach of the enemies adds a level of risk-reward to something as simple as standard turn-based combat. Also, some enemies, mostly bosses, will telegraph huge moves that affect a large area of the battlefield. Moving your characters out of their blast radius will help you stay alive. Next up is, and I'm not making this up, so just hang on, next up is arts and crafts. I know, just to have a little bit of a giggle. Arts and crafts are two separate systems that allow your characters to engage in all sorts of things like painting, sculpting, knitting, and sorry, I know you're all still laughing, so I added this section to expand the joke so you're not laughing over the actual content. Okay, are you alright now? Alright, so arts and crafts are two separate types of special attacks. Arts are basically magic spells. Arts become available when you equip your characters with orbals. Orbals are like magicite, materia, or any other similar MacGuffin. You equip an Orbital in an Orbital slot to increase your stats, but they also give you arts. Blue Orbals give you water and healing arts, Earth Orbals give you defense arts, Green Orbals give you wind arts, etc. These are cast via EP, energy points, which are a lot like MP. Since they're used for arts though, I'm not sure why they aren't called AP for arts points, but whatever. Crafts are inherent to individual characters and are kind of like super moves. Most of them are big attacks, but some of them grant buffs or heal. Crafts also have a higher power subset of skills called S-crafts. These cost more, but are generally more powerful as well. Some S-crafts are powerful attacks, some are screen clearers, and some will heal all of your character's HP and cleanse debuffs and bring characters back to life if they're dead. You are absolutely foolish if you don't use Chloe every chance you get. Crafts are powered by craft points, which start at 0 and slowly increase as you act in battle, and they carry over from battle to battle. Most crafts cost between 10 and 30 craft points, with S-crafts only available when you hit 100 craft points. S-crafts can be activated instantly once you have built up at least 100 craft points. This is an incredible feature because you can interrupt the turn order of combat. Butting into the turn order before an enemy does a super move so you can heal your entire team is great. Butting into the turn order before the enemy kills you so you can kill them first is also great. Also, the game refers to craft points as CP, and I just fucking can't. Please stop using this abbreviation in games, regardless if you have craft points, character points, class points, whatever. Just use another acronym, thank you very much. Outside of combat, you will find a host of fun things to do, like collect books, some of which are very cleverly hidden, collect recipes. Eating foods for the first time will give you the food's recipe. Some are sit-down foods, and some are to-go foods. Sit-down foods are only usable outside of battle and generally affect your whole team, while to-go foods are usable in combat and only affect one person. You can collect ingredients from enemies and buy them in shops to make these dishes. That's it. The recipe system is very simple, and I love how easy it is to use. Next up is the quest system, and I have a lot to say. I love it! Trails in the Sky is from a time where quests were not a widespread thing in games. Side quests in RPGs definitely existed at this stage, hello Phantasy Star 4, but World of Warcraft's quote-unquote influence was yet to be felt, as it was not even released until several months after Trails was dropped in Japan. But Trails definitely has a load of quests, and they are all good. In Sega's massive RPG masterpiece, Phantasy Star 4, aka my second favorite game ever, your main character and his boss are known as hunters. These hunters have a guild where everyday ordinary people can request help with the minutiae of their meager lives. Jobs are listed on a job board where the hunters can review and accept them, and you as the player will eventually gain access to the job board in Phantasy Star 4. This is the closest parable I can find for bracers and jobs in Trails in the Sky. As bracers, you will be able to visit the Bracer Guild in the towns that you visit. When you visit the guild, you can check the job board and accept jobs. Jobs are posted by NPCs who need help with everything from finding a missing cat, locating rare drops, and even killing unique powerful monsters. It's practically identical to the Hunter job board in Phantasy Star 4, so I love it. But what Trails does that PS4 doesn't do is that you have a Bracer rank. Whenever you finish a job, you will earn Bracer points, and there are even some jobs that have additional optional requirements that grant bonus Bracer points. As you gain Bracer points, your Bracer level increases, and you get special items as rewards. Great stuff. Now, I want to take a minute to shout out the game's soundtrack, because it is fucking mint. The only smooth jazz-drenched soundtrack that could rival Trails in the Sky is Breath of Fire 3. Sound team JDK are on fucking fire for this release. Tracks mix in buttery smooth jazz, beautiful and emotional classical, and jaunty folk tunes. These songs run the entire gamut of emotions from cheerful town themes, whimsical exploration songs, and bombastic battle tracks. Just an absolutely incredible soundtrack from start to finish. Like I said, while the gameplay and systems in place here aren't revolutionary, they are cohesive and engaging. Whether you are in combat, exploring town, or crafting, you are going to be having a great time. And all of this does a great job of keeping me glued to the game. And I can't say that about a lot of games. Trails in the Sky is truly magical. The legacy of Trails in the Sky is apparent. The game has gone on to spawn a huge line of direct sequels and spin-offs. English-speaking fans have been absolutely, and I don't often use this word, blessed with after-the-fact releases of games that were originally supposed to be just released in Japan. The English-language fanbase is so vibrant that Falcom has gone and released all of the games that we have never got. A great example is Trails from Zero, which was released in Japan in 2010, but only just released in English in late 2022. As far as giant entities go, Falcom is pretty on the level. They have been really good to the fans. Today, they feel like how Atlus felt 20 years ago. They feel like they care about the games and the players. I mean, they are a corporation selling a product, the end goal is going to be to acquire capital. But whereas modern day Atlus doesn't shy away from this fact, with every single game they drop having day one DLC, Falcom feels like they genuinely want players to have fun. Trails from Zero, Trails into Reverie, Trails through Daybreak, and of course Trails of Cold Steel all cement the legacy of Trails in the Sky. What with the retroactive releases of old Trails games, it feels like every year we get a new title. There have been crossovers with other Falcom titles like Ys vs Trails in the Sky, and the incredible and astonishing Trails vs Popful Mail. Oh, hang on, never mind, that's just a constant fever dream I have every single day of my life. In 2023, Trails exploded onto the anime scene with the Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel Northern War, a series that takes place between Cold Steel 2 and Cold Steel 3, and is absolutely maligned by anyone who puts their eyeballs onto it. But it must have done okay because they are releasing an original game based on the anime on... Oh, hang on, it's being released on mobile phones. Okay. The Trails series might not be as huge as your Final Fantasies or your Dragon Quests, but it sure does have a passionate fan base as well as a passionate dev team. I don't see Trails going anywhere for a very long time. I think it's quite obvious that I absolutely adored this game. Every facet of Trails in the Sky had me hooked, and even after finishing it, I am finding myself constantly thinking about it. Part of me wants to immediately jump into the sequel Trails in the Sky SC, but I also don't want to spoil myself on the series, so I am going to be playing a few other titles in between these games. The story, world, and characters of this game are absolutely top shelf, 11 out of 10 for sure. From Estelle's awkward pining for Joshua, Olivier's goofiness, the world's vibrance, and the story's captivation, all of this is just so good I can't believe it took me so long to get into the series. I have heard people saying for years that this series is one of the best, and I totally slept on it. Well, no more, I say. I am getting so deep into Trails that I will eventually get lost and die, and my body won't be found for decades, and when they finally do find it, they'll read my final diary entry that simply says, "Why is Olivier like this?" Like I said, the gameplay isn't quite as polished as the story, but it's steak and potatoes, really. Basic, but filling. You can't go wrong with steak and potatoes. Sure, sometimes you'd like to have Wagyu steak and Nova Scotian lobster surf and turf, but meat and potatoes won't ever let you down. The combat, the crafting, the quests, it's all good stuff. Could maybe use a bit more time in the oven, but whatever. Man, way too many tortured metaphors in this conclusion. Let's wrap this up. Trails in the Sky is something I had long heard described as a classic, but I was not expecting it to affect me the way it did. It took me a long time to finally experience the series, but I am glad it finally happened. I am truly over the moon in love with this game, and I am so excited to venture deeper into the story and franchise. Hello, it's the end of the video. Hey, hello, hi. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed my silly little video. I had a great time with this game, and I had a great time doing this video. Have you guys ever played Trails in the Sky? What about any of the 5,000 sequels? Please let me know your favorite title below. I would love to hear your thoughts. It is now the time where we do the YouTube stuff. Please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe to the channel, please ring the bell for notifications, join our Discord, join our Patreon, buy a shirt, buy some music, and most important of all, keep blocking ads. Yes, I have ads turned on, I have to pay the bills somehow, but more importantly, I support your right to block all of the ads that you want to, including mine. For RPG Fortress, my name is Richard, I'll see you next time, and please don't forget to hug a cat. Goodbye.